Well, good afternoon, everyone. The discussions continue on both of the major items left, the tax package and the Omni. We hope to be able to finish on both today, at least the decision about what will be in them. And my assumption is they'll be posted later tonight. We'll be meeting in the morning again, my group, my conference, in the morning again to discuss not only the tax bill but the omnibus, both of which we expect to be posted before the day is complete. So that's about all I can tell you at this point. We anticipate those votes will occur in the House on Thursday, and then we hope in the Senate on Thursday as well.
It's worth recounting why we are having to go through an omnibus appropriation process. It's not because we didn't pass a budget, because we did, the first budget since 2009. It's not because the Appropriation Committee didn't do their work. It's because the appropriation bills were filibustered on the Senate floor as a negotiating leverage for the overall budget deal. So that left us with no other option other than to do an omnibus. But despite that obstruction, I think this year's record has been nothing short of noteworthy, to say the least. Beyond passing a budget, we passed a multi-year highway bill. We passed a fix that had been going on since 1988 with regard to a variety of tax provisions, including the Medicare provision known as the doc fix. And we passed a bill that I'm particularly proud of, 99-0, called Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act. So I think by any account, this year has been successful in large part because the Majority Leader has allowed Republicans and Democrats to participate in the process. Thus, you get these large bipartisan bills on the votes on the defense authorization bill, the trade bill, the highway bill, and all these records of bipartisan accomplishment. It wouldn't have happened without Republican leadership, but what it means is that the Majority Leader has given everybody a chance to participate by offering their suggestions and improved legislation, and the people who benefit the most are, of course, the American people.
Well, it's very clear that the American people want to go in a different direction, and they're urging the president to change his strategy. Just yesterday, the Wall Street Journal, NBC News came out with a poll that said that only 37% of the people in this country approve of the president's handling of foreign policy, and 70% of the people in this country think the country is on the wrong track. They go on to list their number one concerns as terrorism and the economy. And yet the president continues to insist that his strategy is working. Well, we disagree with that, and we believe that we are focused on the things that the American people care about the most. They care about growing the economy, better paying jobs. They care about keeping the country safe. And as Senator Cornyn pointed out, our record this last year, I think, suggests that we're listening to the American people. If you look at the things that have been accomplished, a multi-year highway bill, first time since 2005, education reforms, first time since 2001, cybersecurity legislation, Medicare reforms, first balanced budget, literally since 2001. You go through all this list of things that have happened here in the last several months. Those wouldn't have happened without a Republican majority of the United States Senate. So we would love to have the president join us. Clearly the American people agree with us that the president and his policies are headed in the wrong direction. We would love to see him join the debate about how to create better paying jobs for the American people and how to better keep this country safe.
At the beginning of this legislative and calendar year, a number of Democrats predicted there'd just be more gridlock in Washington, and then they tried to make that so. I think Republicans have shown in the majority that we are able to govern. We get beyond the gridlock, and you've heard the list of the accomplishments in terms of a highway bill, in terms of the doc fix, and Medicare reforms. You hear the change in terms of education, in terms of cybersecurity. Let me also point out that Republicans will continue to challenge this president on a number of his misguided ideas, which was why we have passed a repeal of the Obama health care law to help relieve people of the significant problems it is causing in many of their lives, why we passed also the Keystone XL pipeline bill to get jobs in American energy security there and on the table for the president to have to decide. We're going to continue to put on the President's desk issues related to his clean air agenda, his clean power plan, and specifically the waters of the United States. And you may have noted that just yesterday, the Government Accountability Office says that the EPA broke the law in what was called a covert propaganda effort. And the EPA needs to, and this administration needs to be held accountable for these sorts of things, people who abuse the law and misuse taxpayer dollars. So we know what we want to do. We want to provide relief for American families so people can make their own decisions, relief from unelected bureaucrats, unaccountable bureaucrats, and return the power to people at the local level to make the decisions that matter most for themselves, their families, and their communities.
2016, looking forward to next year, what remains to be done for criminal justice reform, sentencing reform that's kind of hanging out there? What remains for that proposal to get to the point where you feel like it's going to merit floor time and you think there's a decent enough consensus to get that done?
Yeah, I haven't announced whether we were going to give it floor time or not, but it obviously enjoys pretty strong bipartisan support. My colleague Senator Cornyn's been right in the middle of that on the committee, and it's a good candidate for being dealt with next year. At the top of the list, I would put this. You saw that the Democrats kept us from passing appropriation bills, the basic work of government, because they wanted to spend more. Well, they got their way. We ended up having to adjust the Budget Control Act and spend more. But we also set the top line for next year. And so I think our top priority next year would be to pass all of the appropriation bills in a timely fashion. I believe that hadn't happened since 1994. And since apparently the argument over how much we're going to spend has been settled, it seems to me I would put that number one. But there are other things. Obviously, we still have the so-called TSCA bill that's ready to be brought up. And I would say, in summing up my attitude about next year, we've had an election every 2 years in this country right on time since 1788. And at any point you could say, well, we can't do this because it's an election year. So I don't think we ought to take the view that we're not going to do much next year simply because there's an election. And among the things that we ought to be doing are the things that I just mentioned.
Leader McConnell, if the House votes separately on a tax standards bill and the omnibus bill, will those be merged into one package for one vote here in the Senate?
Yeah, we'll let you know how we're going to do it procedurally once the House sends it over to us.
Leader McConnell, how will you fix the customs bill coming up with this new tax issue?
Yeah, well, this is not the end of the Congress. It's only the end of the first session. And I don't know whether we'll do the customs bill this year or whether it'll wait until next year.
Is there a ban on elections?
We'll let you know what's in both these bills just as soon as we're prepared to release them.
Senator McConnell?
I'm going to take one more.
Could you talk a little bit about President Obama's role on these negotiations and how you vision him as a partner to next year?
Well, look, the presidency in our system is not irrelevant. He's the guy with the pen. And so anytime you get to the end game like this and you're having a big negotiation, the president and his representatives are not irrelevant. So we've been engaged in discussions with Senator Reid, Leader Pelosi, the Speaker, and the White House. And hopefully by tonight we'll have an agreement that we've been able to reach and we can share in great detail with our members and all of you. Thank you.